Update. I made my dad choose between me and his new family. Original post. My father, 52, and I, 25 female, along with my 3-year-old Cocker Spaniel Moxie, live in my mom's ancestral house that I inherited along with other assets when she died when I was 16 due to cancer. My father got married to his high school sweetheart a few months ago while he was on a trip with his friends. Apparently, they've been in contact for almost 2 years now. I was shocked, but it's his life, and if he's happy, then I'm okay with it. They moved in a week after the small wedding that I wasn't even invited to since I had no idea that they were even dating or that he was dating. She, my dad's wife that we call Steph, 51, came with the baggage. I mean, twin stepsisters, 20 female Lizzie and Lexi, fake names, and their 2 chihuahuas, Gucci and Hermes. They go to the state college nearby and thought that it would save them money if they live here instead of paying rent, etc. My dad asked if it was okay, and he also stated that the house is big enough for us. 7 bedrooms, 8.5 baths, a basement, and a huge yard with a pool. To make my dad happy, I said yes. Big mistake. First issue was the argument of me moving to a smaller room since my room has the second biggest closet of all of the rooms in the house. She needed it to store all her luxury bags and clothes, etc. I said no. I told her it's been my room since I can remember, and she's not making me move when it's my house. My dad compromised with her that he'll give his side of the closet to her while his things are in the other room. Second issue, the twins have this habit of barging into people's room without knocking, and that includes my office, currently working from home due to COVID. Lexi walked in one time wearing a bikini looking for something while I was in the middle of a business meeting. She literally walked behind me where everyone could see her. I was pissed off and embarrassed. Third, their dogs are not potty trained and would leave poops and pee around the house, and the twins wouldn't even clean up after them. They're also very aggressive towards Moxie. I found Moxie one time with a scratch on her left eye when the other 2 dogs would usually nip out when they get the chance. Fourth, all the family photos in the house were removed and put in the attic without my approval. That includes my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my mother's family photo, my baby pictures, etc. I took my time to put them all back to where they belonged. This happened a few times. Then 2 days ago, Steph did it again. But this time she replaced them with her pictures, the twins and her family, etc. Steph and I had a heated argument about it. I told her that she can't do anything regarding the decorations, etc. in my house without my approval, and that her daughters should also learn how to knock on doors and have their dogs potty trained. She said that they can do whatever they want in her house and that she will be making up house rules that we will all follow, since she thinks I'm such a wild animal doing whatever I want, and that I was not raised properly due to having a bad, useless mother. To say I was livid was an understatement. I told her that she can pack her things along with her twins because I'm kicking her out. She said that I have no right to kick them out from her house. I told her, and I quote, "Lady, you are living under my roof. This is my house. I inherited it from my mother, and right now you, your twins, and your dogs are trespassing. Get out before I call the cops." My dad got home early that day after Steph told him what happened. I told him my side of the story, and he said that they're still getting used to the house and the move here was difficult for them. I told him about all the issues surrounding them, but he kept insisting that it's going to get better and that to just give them some time. I told him that I've put up with all their crap and I've had enough. Enough is enough. He was defending them more and taking their side, so I told him that he can either move out with them or stay, and that he has until the end of the week. Did I do the right thing here, making my dad choose between me and his new family? I literally gave them a chance that I've put up with so much of their awfulness for the past few months. Which is sad about my mother was my breaking point. There's no way that she will disrespect her in the house where she grew up in, where I grew up in. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Definitely yes. Good for you. Literally my first thought, nodding like, yes, good. They sound terrible. Girl, you did what you had to do and I would 100% do the exact same thing. Your father, on the other hand, needs to grow some spine. It seems like she got him wrapped around her fingers. I doubt it was even his idea to get married without inviting you. If he ends up choosing them, just cut them out. Go no contact. You don't need that kind of toxicity in your life. Also, make sure that he can't contest your inheritance regarding the house just so they can stay there. You know, people these days. I hope it turns up in your favor. Don't put the secret wedding on the wife. Daddy Dearest dated for 2 years hiding it so hard that Opie had no clue whatsoever. Even if this was her idea, Daddy Dearest was totally in support of it. Yes, This amount of entitlement to your father's wife and stepdaughters is absurd. I am so glad you kicked them out. As far as your dad, his behavior is also pretty terrible. The whole thing where, whoops, I got married, didn't tell you. And oh, by the way, can my new family move in? He is not showing any courtesy, respect, and honesty. I wouldn't be surprised if the wedding was the stepmom's idea, especially not inviting the daughter of the man you're marrying. Like, what is that? Now for the first update. So, just a quick update. I've read the comments and thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. It does make it seem like I'm a pushover. Well, maybe I am. I just don't like confrontation, arguing, or anything that ends up fighting with someone. I'm just not that type of person. I will be changing the locks around the house as some of you suggested. Unfortunately, the gate at the property is old and rusted, and it's been open for who knows how long, so I can't really do much about it right now. Anyway, I called the same lawyer that handled my mom's will to review if there's any loophole or any chance that my dad can contest it. I'll be seeing her in a couple of hours. Regarding my dad, he's a good man. It has worked hard to provide for me my needs when my mom died. He's never asked me to tap on my money to help with the living expenses, etc. He makes a decent amount of money as an engineer, like 6 figures, so I don't think he's after my money. I could be wrong though. I just think that he's blinded that someone still finds him attractive at his age. Also didn't help how it was his high school sweetheart. I've also talked to him about his impromptu wedding and how he kept things from me. He just said that he didn't know how I was going to react if I knew that he was dating the ex-girlfriend before he met and married my mom. I was pissed off, but I got over it since he seemed happy having her around. I don't know what their whole story is or if there's a bad blood between her and my mom to make her lash out like that and disrespect her. Steph and her evil spawns are staying somewhere in town. No idea where, and I don't care or want to find out. They have the money to take care of themselves, and if they run out, they always have their luxury bags to sell. Honestly, who needs so much bag that they require a whole closet just to store them? If anyone's wondering where my relatives are, well, my mom was an only child and grandparents left her everything. When my mom died, I got most of what she inherited. She left some to my dad as well. My grandparents on my dad's side lives about 6 hours away with my uncles and aunts. It's literally just me and my dad here and Moxie. Moxie's doing well. She's happier and seems to enjoy the quietness around the house. I will update as soon as I can, but thank you for all the support. Sounds like you're safe, and good that they moved out. You did the right thing by kicking them out. It is just so entitled and disrespectful. I would also suggest you keep anything sentimental as well as anything valuable to you locked up, just in the off chance she comes back and destroys some of your pictures, etc. This is a very good idea. And I would also suggest that Opie take video, photograph, keep a ledger or a spreadsheet, etc. But Opie needs to document and keep a record of any and everything of monetary and sentimental value. Girl, how big is your property? Sounds like it's old money passed down for generations. There's nothing wrong with being kind, but sometimes you just have to toughen up and grow some spine, which is what you did. Keep your valuables somewhere safe until they're 100% out of your life. If you can't afford to live in a house by yourself, if things turns out bad, rent the rooms, but make sure they sign a lease or something. Your dad doesn't sound that bad, just made some wrong decisions on his part. Your dad didn't tell you he was dating and getting married because he wasn't sure how you'd take it, but had no issues moving them into your house? You need to reevaluate your relationship with him. That's bananas. I mean, it's most likely she talked him into it, but that just goes to show he likely cares more about her than you. Sorry, that's a rough situation. I don't know how I'll handle it, but I think you did the right thing by booting them. I've also talked to him about his impromptu wedding and how he kept things from me. He just said that he didn't know how I was going to react if I knew that he was dating the ex-girlfriend before he met and married my mom. Very likely lies Opie. Daddy didn't want you to be upset that he was dating, but he didn't care you might be upset he got married. Without telling you, without inviting you. He didn't care if you were unhappy with him wanting to drag his secret wife and her spawn into your home. He doesn't care that you're unhappy with a witch who is claiming your home as hers, redecorating as she pleases, allows her spawn to do as they please, including injuring your dog, and risking your job, and trash talks your mother. His explanation is that the move has been hard on them. He doesn't give a rat's head how hard this has been on you. I'm sorry, Opie, but your dad caring about how you feel has nothing to do with his actions. It's how he feels that is important to him, and how Wifey Pooh and her spawn feel. And now here's the second update. So, I spoke with my mother's previous lawyer, Amy, fake name, about the issue on Saturday and asked if there's a way to contest the will. She showed me the documents and my dad and I both signed an agreement, in summary, that we agree on what was left to us and that we will not be contesting it in the future. Mom for the win. She also advised to give them at least 30 days to find a place and move out to avoid any legal troubles, etc. So inheritance issue is solved. Saturday night, I was supposed to have dinner with just my dad. Apparently, a private discussion between father and daughter is a whole family affair. The Stephen twins were there. To make it quick and to end the misery, I stated that I spoke with Amy regarding the house and other legal issues. I also added that they have 30 days to find a place and move out. Steph tried to object, but Dad shut her down by saying that we can't fix the issue, and that we can all go to family therapy and that we just need time to get to know each other. Cue my eyes rolling. I informed him that it's been months since they moved in, and not once did they try to be family, unless they need something. I put my foot down, enough is enough. So I asked him if he's going with them or staying, so I'll know which items he'll be taking. He asked if I'm kicking him out, which I told him I'm not. That is free to choose to wherever he goes, but I told him that he should not expect me to keep in contact with him if he decides to leave. Steph asked why I'm kicking him out of his house. I told her that I inherited my house from my mother. She said that I told her that I live with him. I guess she thought that I live with my dad in his house. Big misunderstanding on their part. Lexi argued that it's going to be hard to move since they're finishing up spring semester, and that finals are in a couple of weeks. I just smiled and said to better hurry and find a place. I left after that. Yesterday, Easter Sunday, I invited my boyfriend and his family and my two best friends over to celebrate Easter Sunday. My dad has been calling me and I didn't bother answering the call. He tried to invite me to spend a day with them. As far as I'm concerned, the only family I have right now are my two best friends, my boyfriend and his family. It was a good Sunday. We did some egg hunting and a few games and had a big dinner, which I haven't had in a long time. I felt right. Anyway, right now I'm finishing up on documenting everything that's worth over $500 in the house. I had a few people over to help document them. All locks have been changed. I only gave a copy to my boyfriend. Don't worry about my dad asking him about the key. Dad doesn't approve of him since he's middle class. He also hired professionals to install a security system around the house and property, and I am scheduled to meet with someone regarding the fences and gate. I have not tapped into the fund that my mom left since I started college to help with tuition, dorm, and other expenses, but this is an emergency and it calls for it. All the family pictures, portraits, etc. are currently in a storage. All other valuables that are smaller in a safety deposit box. All documents are in a water and fireproof safe that requires a key and a pin to open, currently in my room. I'm trying to take all the precautions and advice that you guys wrote in the comment section in my previous post. Thank you for those. So that's about it for now. Not really sure why Dad is choosing to be with them than me, his own flesh and blood. I'll update this if there's any news or something stupid happens, but I've come to accept that for some unknown or unexplainable reason, they're more important to him than me. It's hard since he's the only family I have left here, and I'm really not that close with his side of the family. So once they move out, I'm cutting contact with them. He is a grown man and he can decide whatever the heck he wants to do with his life. Thanks for all the support and well wishes. Great job. Don't let your dad play you. He made his choice. He may try to lie to you in order to get his way. Don't let him weasel his way back in. He is out and needs to stay out. Don't be surprised if some big emergency comes up where someone claims they are sick or injured and need more time or help. That is what my family does. I cut them out 3 years ago. In the last month alone, according to the harassment, my grandpa needed blood and had a rare issue, and they wanted me to get tested. Never said what to get tested for. My grandma has a stroke. The doctors say if it was a stroke, it was small and there's no damage. My sister wants to divorce her husband and my parents aren't supportive. Why is my mom leaving frantic voicemails about how my sister needs any support? Now that grandpa has pneumonia or congestive heart failure, not to be cold, but he is 90 and in poor health, and he is going to die, and there is nothing I can do about it. They treat me like a monster because I don't care. I actually care very much, but when every month is like this and that, it loses meaning. They manufactured emergencies so things can never get better and they have an excuse. You make sure to keep up the great work and document everything. You are doing great. This is a very good point. Those people are going to come up with crazy reasons to get back in. The stepmom's sleeping with him, so he will choose whatever keeps her in his bed. It's pathetic how some men, and some women, care more about getting off than their own children. I'm sorry, Opie. Focus your time and energy on your boyfriend and his family. Yeah, that's my feeling too. His prick is making all the decisions. I think that now that Opie has grown up and probably established a good footing to whatever her career is, it's time for him to be happy and try for a second chance with love. He's so blinded that he didn't consult or consider her daughter before making the big decision. Granted, she's 25 and an adult, but if it's the only family she have left, then you would think he'll make better decisions. I've read worse in the AIT page, like husband cheating on wife and choosing the mistress and such, so Opie should be able to handle this. I just hope that her boyfriend isn't leeching off of her. Get that prenup ready. With her actions, it was pretty obvious that she thought it was your dad's house and you were just living in it. Hence, she asked you to give up your room because she wants your closet. She thought she can drive you out, most likely intended. Nicely played. And yes, mom for the win. This is like the re-edited story of Cinderella, when everything goes right for Cinderella but not for the stepmother or the stepsisters. Why cut contact once he moved his new family out? I know he married her without you, but I felt he should have moved them into their own place in the beginning anyway. Maybe then the two of you would have been able to salvage your relationship. But if he's trying to still be a dad to you, why not? From what I can tell, his new wife and her daughters have been extremely disrespectful to not only Opie, but the memory of her mother/his wife. Honestly, him staying with his wife and his children is him condoning their treatment of Opie and his late wife. He knows what they have been doing and saying, but instead of trying to reason with his wife and get them to apologize, he's putting the responsibility of accepting an awful relationship on his daughter. That in itself is not something a parent should ever do. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my parents rent money? I turned 18 about a month ago. The day after my birthday, my parents sat me down and told me they want me to pay rent while I lived at home. I was a little confused. I have 3 older siblings, and the deal for them was that they could live at home for free while they were studying, even when they were several years older than I am. Now, I can only work weekends because of college, so I make about 500 euros a month. And after paying for tuition, health insurance, mandatory, and my phone bill, I have about 300 euros left, most of which I try to save. So I ask my parents how much they want. 100 a month? Maybe 200. But no. They want me to pay market value to rent a room, which is in the city where I live about 500 euros. Now, I think this is ridiculous for 2 reasons. One, my parents' rent for the entire house is 600 a month. I would have understood asking for 1/3 of that, but for me to pay 84% of that alone seems excessive. And 2, none of my siblings paid rent, even if they were older or had better paying jobs. Not to mention that my parents didn't give me any warning. If I had known beforehand, I'd have looked for a room when college started. I explained that I have to make almost 800 a month just to be able to pay for everything, and even more if I want to save anything for unexpected expenses, /school books, /actually moving out, which would be really hard to do while going to college full-time and commuting back and forth. They just told me to take out some student loans. I told them I'm not okay with paying that much, and that I would look to move out as soon as possible so I wouldn't be a financial burden to them. I think I found a room, cheaper than my parents offered, and will probably move out in a week or 2 if everything goes right, but I haven't paid this month's rent. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Some people pointed out that my parents are legally obliged to help pay for my living/college expenses. I'll look into it. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. Move out, get some space, and move on with your life. I'm sorry they are treating you this way. It sounds like you're the scapegoat. I hardly get the rent thing for your kids, especially if they are in school. Then to come up with an absurd number like 84%. If mom and dad want that, they'll have to move to the smallest bedroom and get the rest of the house. Not stay home. If I was ever in the situation of having kids around the age of 18, I would charge rent. If they aren't full-time studying, but I'll put it in a savings account in secret and give it to them when they move out. Info, did they give you the reason for why you have to pay rent but your siblings didn't? Seems super unfair. They didn't, though I've never been the favorite at home. My theory is that they don't approve of the degree I want to pursue and therefore don't want to help. But I don't know. Someone else pointed out that they might have money trouble, but if they do, I'm not sympathetic. They both have high-paying jobs and go on expensive vacations often, and my dad just bought a new car. Not day home. Sounds like your parents are way behind on rent and are looking for an easy way out, like having you pay 84% of the rent. How come a room in your city is $500, but your parents' entire apartment is only $100 more? Just curious. They can't just raise the rent much while someone is living there. My parents moved in a while ago, so they pay $600. Our neighbors pay $750. Plus, student housing is just expensive. I'm not sure why. May I ask in which country you and your family live? The Netherlands. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my ex have a relationship with his child? I know the title is awful, but I'm trying to be quick and couldn't think how better to phrase it. When I was 18, I was in a relationship that was, in hindsight, full of red flags, the biggest being he was 29. We split after 4 months because he cheated and gave me an STI. Then during treatment for the STI, I found out I was pregnant. I personally am against terminating, so I wanted to keep the baby. I told him and he made it clear he didn't have to be involved. And my father, a lawyer, drafted a contract that we both signed, basically giving up his rights to the child. The whole time, he was vehemently against me having the baby. I'd made multiple MySpace videos going on about how I shouldn't be able to keep the baby without his permission, and I was a witch, and so on. Once the contract was signed, I basically never heard from him again until this year. He found out recently that he was infertile, and now he and his wife of 10 years want to build a relationship with my son. He isn't allowed to contact my son without permission, and I have refused. My son adores my husband, and it will devastate him to find out that his real dad didn't want him. Am I the a-hole for not letting my ex have a relationship with his son? All I can think about is the hateful things he said about my son and I before my son was born. And now the only reason he's reached out is that he can't have other children. I don't think I'm the a-hole, but I feel really conflicted. Edited to add, my son is almost 15. He does know that my husband isn't his dad, and we went through therapy for it when we told him at 11. But he very much considers my husband to be his dad and our daughter to be his sister, and hasn't shown any interest in finding out about his biological father. Obviously, if he wants to know, I won't lie to him. But right now, he is happy with his family as it is, and hasn't shown any interest in hearing about my ex. Not stay home. Though, if you have not told your son that stepdad isn't his real dad, that won't end well in the long run. But speaking of your ex, wow, is that karma or what? Infertile. Probably from untreated STIs. Not stay home. You signed away his rights and your son has a good relationship with your husband. If he is infertile, he can always adopt. This, he signed away his rights. He doesn't get to say he has a child. Did he forget that he signed the papers? Not stay home. He doesn't get to decide to try and be a dad because he found out he's infertile 10 years after all the horrible crap he said. He made his bed, and now he needs to lay in it. I hope you kept the videos just in case he tries anything sneaky in the future. Edit: being a sperm donor doesn't give him the father/dad title. Not stay home. Are you able to say, if your son ever asks, you'll put him in touch? Would that work? Yeah, that's basically what I said to him. And he got angry that I wouldn't let him fly halfway across the country in a pandemic and let him meet my son right now. Seriously, when he messaged 2 weeks ago, he was talking about booking flights for the first weekend of Feb. And I was like, WTF? Yikes. Well, stick to your guns. Your boy's happy. And that's a gift you gave him. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for paying my niece $50 for the birthday cake she made for my son's birthday? My 16-year-old niece Judy is into bakery. She bakes plenty of sweets and cakes. Due to my brother and his wife's financial situation, Judy got dropped out of cooking academy. She was heartbroken over this, especially because she was on top of her class. She was determined to go back to cooking academy, so she started selling stuff she bakes online to be able to afford her classes. Her parents thought cooking academy was a distraction from school and disapproved of it though, so they started demanding she bakes for neighbors and friends for free. My son's 4th birthday was last week. I asked Judy if she could bake a cake for $50. She agreed, but my brother said no chance. and swore up and down that she will do it for free. Judy said if she keeps working for free, she'll no longer be able to afford the academy, not to mention the ingredients. I said I have no issue paying, but my brother said we're family and the cake was for free. This didn't sit right with me, so I went behind my brother and his wife's back and gave Judy the $50 before they left the party. Well, they found out and yelled at Judy for accepting the money. Then my brother called saying I shouldn't have paid her, but I said she deserves the money for her efforts. But he went on about how unacceptable it is for family to pay for favors, and said that Judy got grounded for acting so entitled. I had an argument with him and told him to stop the punishment, but he said we wouldn't be dealing with us if I didn't go behind his back and gave Judy the money in the first place. I hung up and met up with my family to discuss this, and they all agreed that I should never have sneaked my niece the money and disrespecting her parents' wishes. They told me that I don't even get to speak ill of my brother because he was just trying to be generous with me and was being a real family. I don't know. I feel I might be the a-hole for this. Am I? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. People think that just because you're family, you don't deserve to be paid for your time and effort and skill. You did the right thing. She deserved that $50. Except her parents are making the kid work for free for everyone. Opie might be able to better help by telling the niece she'll hold the money for her until she's old enough to open her own bank account. Or possibly gift the academy tuition, directly paid to the academy. I agree with this, but $50 and hold tuition is a big difference money-wise. Not an Opie to pay the whole thing, but maybe she could help set up a small business for her so she can widen her clientele. Not stay home. Wow, not stay home. Very much not stay home. Your brother is calling poor Judy entitled when they expect her to spend her time, effort, skills, and probably money on ingredients, and give her goods away for free? That's entitled. They want a puppet to do their bidding and make them look good. They are abusing their daughter's passion for the sake of their own image, and then proceed to punish her when she actually shows any kind of success for it. Is there any way that you could help Judy Network to find more people to sell goods to, so she can make money for Cooking Academy? Judy needs a website and a new place to live. Not stay home. Why do people not understand that just because a family member has skill, it doesn't mean they should do stuff for free? Thank you for at least trying to help your niece and trying to pay for her time. Her parents are shocking. Not stay home. Your brother is teaching his daughter a horrible lesson. That her time and skill is not worth anything. People want to constantly preach you do for family, but there is a line between being generous and taking advantage of someone. You are completely in the right to pay your niece not only for ingredients, but also her time. Your niece is going to hopefully learn quick that you don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother she will not see her grandchild? I, 33 female, recently found out I am expecting. My husband and I are delighted, and everybody's delighted for us. This will be our first child and my mother's 64 female third grandchild, as sister 31 female has 2 kids. When we announced we were expecting, my mother decided she had to take charge, giving me names, telling me that she should take care of the babies, I wouldn't know what I was doing, etc. Now, I am very low contact with mother. I actually moved away from living in close proximity with her due to my dislike towards her. Without boring you all with detail, my upbringing was not abusive on the physical side. However, I was emotionally drained, and I had such relief the moment I moved out of her house. I won't get into the history, but my sister got everything her way. Could freeload whilst I had to be working from age 16. Pay my own way by giving up 60% of my wage. I had to get a full-time job whilst continuing my education, funding everything myself. I do not resent my sister for this, and we have a fantastic relationship. The rest of my family did not talk to my mother, with my sister the only one who remains in contact. Even then, my sister will consistently complain to me about her, to the stage now where her kids will not be with my mother unsupervised. With my mother, it is her way or no way, and will give you the silent treatment until she gets her way. Even my nephews joke about the way my mother is. The times she reaches out to me, it's when she needs money. As she is my mother, I was previously supporting her, and as it stands, she owes me £47,000 over a 5-year period. My in-laws are moving closer to us for the birth of their first grandchild, and I want them to be super involved. My mother-in-law is more of a mother to me than my own. 2 days ago, a post on Facebook came out which made me react extremely fast. A young girl at her work, care home, had passed an NVQ. My mother posted that she was extremely proud and Stacy's more of a daughter to me than my eldest. I'll admit, I saw red, and I told her until she could accept me for who I am, I will not be speaking to her again. To which she responded that I had been a disappointment all her life, and she asked if the unborn child is even my husband's, as she knows I secretly work in prostitution. I don't, but again, I am not telling her my job title nor how much money I make. I was livid and told her she would never see her grandchild or me again. She's been blowing me up, calling me an a-hole, and having her friends also contact me, claiming how cruel I am and what a horrible thing for a daughter to do. I don't think I'm the a-hole here, but I'm wondering, what do you all think? Not the a-hole, and you know it. She's a manipulative narcissist. It will never get better unless she seeks serious mental health help. No contact is the only way I can see at the moment. I was very low contact before due to her ways. It was some comments from my own friends that made me post, claiming I may be using my future child as a way to punish her. I had to trim the comments my friends made about it from the original post as it was above the character count. Your friends need to keep their opinions to themselves. They're not the ones who have to put up with this treatment. Not they home. Not they home. She herself said you're not really her daughter, so why should you consider her a mother? Excuse my language, but ditch that witch for good and live a happy life without the nasty influence of that person. Don't let your child get poisoned by her or her friends. Protect yourself and your family and stay strong. Not stay home. Your mom sounds like a trash fire, and if you do not mind unsolicited advice from a stranger and parent, it all boils down to this one question. Will this person's presence be a positive influence in my child's life? If the answer is no, what you did is not just your right, but your responsibility as a parent. Block her and her flying monkeys not just until she asks for another chance, but until she proves by her actions that she deserves one. If that is forever, she only has herself to blame. Not stay home. It's time to cut contact completely. Block her from your phone and all your social media. Do not let her inside your home if she comes by. Don't even answer the door. She's highly toxic. Inform your sister of your new rules. Congratulations on your pregnancy. Please remember that it's not good for your health or your baby's health to be overly stressed, so you'll have to work on eliminating your mom from your mind as much as you can. My mom was toxic too, and I wish you only the best. Unfortunately, blocking her isn't an option I can take. 2 years ago, my sister was diagnosed with a mental disability, which means I still need to protect her. And I don't want my mother using my sister as a point of contact and putting unnecessary pressure on my sister. Am I the a-hole for calling my fiancé lazy for wanting to be a stay-at-home wife? I'm 42 male, I'm engaged to who I feel is the one, 33 female. We had been dating for just over 3 years and I proposed last month. Last night, after another session of wedding planning, my fiancé asked if I would be alright with her being a stay-at-home wife. At first I laughed because I thought she was joking, but she was being very serious. She told me not to laugh and said she wants to be a stay-at-home wife. I asked her why, as we both make pretty good money at our jobs, and we can't afford our current lifestyle with just one income. She says it's because I make a lot more than her, which is true as I make about 40% more, and that we could scale back our lifestyle. And then said it's been on my mind a lot, and I think working 9 to 5 just isn't for me. I asked her if she was being serious, and she confirmed that she is. I said that I'm not comfortable with that idea, and said maybe if we have kids, she could be a stay-at-home mom, but I'm not cool with her being a stay-at-home wife. But she said that I was being manipulative, since we're both child-free. But I just said that as a hypothetical, since I'm not at all okay with being the sole breadwinner. That devolved into a pretty heated argument, with her saying that I should support her dreams, but she never stated what she wants to do with her staying at home, even though I did ask. So this is where maybe the a-hole. In the heat of the moment, I said, "Where's this coming from? Why is it your dream to be a stay-at-home wife? Is it your dream to be lazy? She got really upset at that and had gone to her mother's and said, "We'll talk more when you calm down." I'll be real here. I don't want her to be a stay-at-home wife. I'm not okay with being the sole breadwinner, and I do not wish to support this dream. I want a partner in life, not a dependent doing nothing productive with her days. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. So she waits until you propose and she thinks she has you wrapped around her fingers to tell you her dream of being lazy and then has the nerve to say that you're the manipulative one? Jesus. That's a very good point. Up until I proposed to her, she was just filled with so much ambition, and that's one of the reasons I fell in love in the first place. Feels like it came out of left field, her sudden desire not to work. Oh man, I feel genuinely bad for you. I'm wondering, what are her friends' jobs? Like, does she surround herself with people that might have the same mindset when it comes to not working? All her friends and our mutual friends are all pretty ambitious people. Even the stay-at-home moms are very driven in terms of child rearing. This is very simple. Are you prepared to lower your standard of living solely to support her financially? Are you prepared to grind 5 days a week for the next 20 plus years at a job while she does whatever she wants to do? Personally, I'd say when you ask her what her dreams are and she dodged the question, she told you everything you need to know. Lol, support her dreams. If my husband had a dream to go back to college, I would support that. If he had a dream to start his own business in an area he was passionate about, I would support that. But if he had a dream to sit on his butt and play video games / be a stay-at-home husband, he would soon be supporting my dream to be divorced. It sounds like you and your fiancé have very different values in life. Not stay home. This all day. I've taken a few months to myself between jobs in the past. It doesn't take much time or effort to shop and clean for a household containing just 2 able-bodied adults. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my fiancé to dictate what my mom wears to our wedding? My fiancé and I are both Indian. Her family has been in the US for a couple generations, and I was born in India but came here at 6 years old and don't remember much of it. My mom hates India. It hates being Indian due to a lot of trauma she faced, such as being married off very young, being treated badly for being a girl, being slightly darker skinned than her sister, and then being trapped in a very unhealthy marriage. My mom left my dad a couple years after we came to the US and was shamed by her family. She now totally denies being Indian and wants nothing to do with it. We are having a big, mostly traditional Indian wedding, which my mom is cool with, but my mom wants to wear an evening gown and not a sari. But my fiancé wants all of the family in traditional Indian attire, and this has turned into a huge fight and neither of them are backing down. My fiancé feels that my mom is going to stand out, and that she is being disrespectful but not going along with our wishes for one day. My mom feels that my fiancé is being controlling and invalidating her feelings about her identity. Then my mom's husband got involved, and got into it with my future mother-in-law, and now everything is a mess. My mom showed me some of the dresses she's looking at, and none of them are attention-seeking or anything crazy. So I put my foot down with my fiancé, and said she can't force my mom to wear a sari. My fiancé and future mother-in-law think I'm being an a-hole, but my mom is grateful and even said she can wear red, traditional Indian color, if my fiancé is so worried about her standing out. I thought that was a good compromise, but my fiancé feels I'm being a spineless mama's boy. Not the a-hole. I'd go so far as to say, sorry, but not sorry. Not the a-hole. I'm usually in the camp of supporting your wife over your mother, but it seems your wife is being callous for no good reason. Is she this self-centered and selfish in other ways? This would be a situation I'd be taking a step back from, to see if this is even a woman you want to marry after this. Not stay home. Your mother is likely already putting on a strong face to watch her son be married surrounded by a cultural aesthetic that reminds her of past trauma. I can't imagine someone I love not recognizing that strength, instead of trying to drape that trauma on them. I would keep asking your fiancé why your mother's mental health means so little to her. Please continue to stand up for your mother. Bridal entitlement and lack of empathy hurts my brain. Not today, home. Your fiancé isn't marrying herself, so she doesn't get to make all the decisions alone. Hopping onto the back of this comment, I would see this as a big red flag. If she can't compromise on one measly dress, which her mother was even willing to look like a traditional sari/dress, then who knows what she can't compromise on. I don't want to be the one to say it, but maybe it may not be your healthiest decision. Edit. Well, I spent all day reading through some very thorough and insightful comments and talking to my fiancé, and the wedding is off. Thanks everyone for taking the time to read and respond. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my boyfriend out over my cat? For context, my 24 female boyfriend 30 male and I recently moved in together. It's something we've been talking about, and when his lease ended, he moved into my apartment. I have a cat, Millie, who is my baby girl that I've had since she was a kitten. Back when my boyfriend and I first started dating, he made a joke that if we were ever going to live together, he'd have to get rid of that cat, which I dismissed at the time. When he would come over, he would ignore Millie, making jokes about how cats are stuck up, how much she's a dog person. Again, I dismissed this because I never acted hostile towards her, and I figured it was just a preference. When we started to get serious about moving in, he asked if I would consider giving her away because he didn't like the idea of living with a cat. He almost laughed before realizing he was serious. I told him that under no circumstances would I get rid of my cat. I felt guilty about being unwilling to compromise, but he actually took it well and reassured me that if she was this important to me, he'd get over it. Fast forward to last night. I don't think he realized I was in the kitchen when he came home. Millie was on the couch, and I heard him go into the room and give this sigh. But before I could call out, I heard him say, "You're so freaking worthless." It terrified me because I've never heard him speak with such malice. He sounded like a different person. It was just so cold and hostile that I panicked and rushed out there to see him looking at Millie. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I completely freaked out. I was yelling, asking what he thought was doing talking to her like that. He jumped, and I scooped Millie up and told him to leave my apartment right now. He looked so stunned and started to argue, asking where was he supposed to go. I told him that I don't care. He just needs to leave. He was pissed and said he was going for a drive and slammed the door behind him. I immediately started sobbing and holding Millie. I was shaking, and she could tell I was upset and kept cuddling me. She calmed me down, and later when he texted asking if he could come back, I said yes. I put Millie in the bedroom so we could talk. We were both a lot calmer, and I felt awful after we explained aside. I'll often call Millie little names, and he said he was just trying to be playfully mean too and misjudged his tone. But he said it felt awful that I chose a cat over him, and that he called it my apartment when it's supposed to be our place. He told me he was constantly feeling second best to Millie, who I wouldn't even consider rehoming, and I had thrown him out over an animal when he's a person. I explained to him how much he means to me, and apologized for ever making him feel like this wasn't his home. I think I might have overreacted, but I just don't know. He's my boyfriend, and she's something I kept refusing to compromise on. But I also don't believe that he just misjudged his tone. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and he's lying now. Don't let him gaslight you. Your cat is going to go missing someday. This. If for some reason you do continue this, make sure you have plenty of photographs of her and you as proof that she's yours, and that she's microchipped because she will end up on the streets or dropped off at a shelter. Not an a-hole. Rehome your a-hole boyfriend. You shouldn't have dismissed those earlier jokes. On a first date, you should have said something like, "All jokes aside, I would never get rid of my cat." I can't BS on worthless comments being his attempt at being playful. He is just making up excuses because you caught him. Agreed. He got caught and came up with a BS excuse. Ditch him before the cat goes missing or worse. Not an a-hole. The way a person talks about an animal or treats an animal is a good indication of the type of person they are. After all the talk about wanting to get rid of her, I could never trust him alone with her. How do I know he won't poison her, physically hurt her, or dump by the side of the road? If it was my boyfriend, he would be gone. Flat out gone. If you don't like cats/dogs, that's fine. But when you are just nasty about it, then you cross a line. Yep, if this is how he is when he thinks Opie isn't there and is his regular mood, I dread to think how he is in a bad mood. Next story. Am I the a-hole for implying that my wife is the cookie monster? My wife and I have a 5-year-old daughter, Ellie. Ellie loves cookies and takes it very seriously when her cookies go missing. My wife is also pregnant with twins and sometimes loses track of how many cookies she eats. Last night, my wife came to me and said she ate the rest of the cookies. I said no problem and that we'll go to the store today for more. Ellie went to the kitchen for a snack and looked into the cookie jar to find it empty. She ran to me and said that we had an emergency. The cookies were missing. I helped her look for them, but after a few minutes, she realized they were really gone. I told her the cookie monster must have snuck in while sleeping and stolen the cookies. Needless to say, she's very mad at the cookie monster right now. I took her to Target, and when we were buying cookies, she said we need to get another package to hide in the pantry in case the cookie monster came back. I said that was a good idea, and we left with our replacement cookies and our emergency cookies. When we got home, my wife pulled me aside and said that I shouldn't have said the cookie monster stole the cookies when I knew she did it, and that I'm implying that she's the cookie monster. I didn't think it was a big deal, but she seemed pretty hurt, so I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Edit. The cookie monster left a card for Ellie apologizing for eating all of the cookies without asking, and left her a cookie monster stuffed animal. The only downside is, the card and stuffed animal were surrounded by cookie crumbs, and it looks like there's a missing cookie from the jar. Now for the comments. I love how wholesome this is. Not an a-hole. Your wife is pregnant, so she's extra sensitive, which is totally normal. I hope your daughter will forgive the actual cookie monster eventually. He was my favorite when I was a kid. I have a feeling he's gonna sneak in again tonight and leave an "I'm sorry for stealing your cookies" card. She should be fine once she gets an apology. You're the best. One day you and your wife will enjoy laughing about this. Until then, keep doing everything you're doing because you seem to have found a perfect ways to support your pregnant wife. He may leave her a cookie or a cookie monster stuffy with her card, but he is not sure yet. Either way, this is gonna be an awesome story for the kids at the school tomorrow. No a-holes here. 5-year-olds can overreact and can get very upset over tiny things. She's clearly ticked at the cookie monster. I can also see your wife being upset or even embarrassed about being the cookie monster. Though it'd be a lot more embarrassing if your daughter had said, "I need to hide the cookies or else mommy will eat all of them." Having her be mad at the cookie monster keeps her from being mad at her mom. So nobody has done anything wrong, except the cookie monster. Not an a-hole. It was a joke. And I bet your wife is hormonal due to being pregnant, so is more sensitive and more prone to eating more food. Don't mention it again and it'll blow over. I'm not mentioning it, but Ellie's not over it yet. She can hold a grudge when it comes to her cookies. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole? My boyfriend inherited $1 million, and I want him to pay more towards the household. My boyfriend inherited $1 million early last year, both cash and investments. We would both rather have his mom back, but that's not possible. Over the past 10 years, my boyfriend has been unemployed many times. We agreed that due to his money issues, he would pay 1/3 of his take-home pay to rent/utilities. Until this past year, he also used my car when he needed. He would buy groceries, but I paid for most things. Now he has money. I've asked him to pay more in rent. His equal share would be $650 more than what he pays. When I brought it up, he suggested an extra $250, still leaving me to cover $400 more than him. This hurt my feelings, and we had a fight. He recently complained that he was the only one going to Costco, and that he shouldn't have to purchase so much. But he has made some small purchases for himself lately. Speakers, collectible skates, and snowboards. His wording is, "I can't afford to do blank." But I'm not asking for anything more than household expenses. And I know he can afford to do more, and it hurts that he doesn't think he needs to. I suggested he look at what it would cost for him to live on his own, and it would be about 5 times what he is currently paying, all in with all our utilities and such. I think he is subsidizing his lifestyle at my expense, and he doesn't think he needs to contribute money because I don't need it. I'm not saving money, and really would like to have something for retirement. I said that if he doesn't want to pay his share, then he should have his own place. Am I the a-hole here? Not an a-hole. Kick him out. He'll start paying his own way real quick. You think he is using you to subsidize your lifestyle? Oh no, Opie. He is using you. He's a freeloading, greedy cheapskate. Put him and his $1 million on the curb and go live your best life. 10 years? Ages? Tell him to put up or shut up. Not an a-hole. That is what makes it just so egregious. I know a lot of people feel inheritance should be theirs and not something put into a family account. But when I was in a similar situation recently, I used the money to help my family out as a whole, as I know my wife would do the same. During our lives, our earning power has varied dramatically, and we always just pooled our income and paid off bills and rent, etc., without making exact amounts. That is, we did what we could to cover costs and never nickeled and dimed. And this was after 2 years, not 10 years. Am I the a-hole for choosing to go on a trip with my girlfriend instead of taking care of my struggling brother's son? For context, my 24 male, brother Luke 31 male, his wife Emma 28 female, and their son Kyle 4 male moved to my city last year because Emma got a new job. They would occasionally ask me to watch Kyle because I work from home with very flexible hours. I personally do not like kids at all, but I was happy to do it at a time because I wanted to help them. It was not that often, maybe once or twice every 2 weeks, and Kyle was very well behaved. Now, the issue started near the end of last year when Luke decided to change careers. He was previously working remotely as well, but his new job required him to go to work as a lot more often and make substantially less money. This left them depending on me more and more to take care of Kyle. It went from once or twice every 2 weeks to around 3 days out of the week. To make matters worse, Kyle's behavior changed drastically. To be completely honest, I can barely stand a kid anymore. Constantly running around and screaming while I'm trying to work, and just overall being a little turd. My sister-in-law Emma was over the other day picking up Kyle and made some comments about getting rid of some of the dangerous furniture in my house, like tables with glass edges and stuff, so that my home is safer for their son, and made a joke about baby-proofing my house because they're planning to have a daughter. This ticked me off, but I didn't say anything. The situation hit a breaking point last Friday when I was talking about the 1.5-week-long trip I was going on with my girlfriend on the 15th. Me and my girlfriend like to travel somewhere nice at least once a month. We could not the past couple months because of Kyle, but I promised my girlfriend we would go somewhere exotic for Valentine's. Upon hearing this, they got pretty mad, asking who was gonna take care of Kyle, and that I need to stop these childish trips, and that I need to take more responsibility because I'm an uncle now. I'm not gonna lie, after hearing this, I've freaking snapped. I said that their demon child isn't my responsibility, and I'm not just gonna give up my life because they did it without a rubber. It got pretty obscene from there and some horrible things were said. They left, and we are now no longer on speaking terms. My parents and Emma's parents are on their side and extremely angry at me for refusing to pull my weight. My parents said that this is my duty, and I should be sacrificing everything to help them. It honestly got me really down, and I've cried my eyes pretty much every day since seeing those messages from my family. I'm starting to wonder if I really should be taking more responsibility. Am I the a-hole for choosing my trips over my brother and nephew? Not the a-hole. Sounds like your and Emma's parents need to start doing their duty and watching their grandchild. If they're not willing to do that, all their huffing and puffing that you need to watch Kyle is just hot air. This is not your child, and you have no weight to pull. This just reeks of trying to gang up on you because you're the youngest and you're nice, and they think you're going to cave. Stay strong and keep your boundaries. As an uncle myself, the most responsibility we should be given is to tucker out the nieces and nephews at family gathering and nothing more. Emergency childcare, sure, but suddenly the third parent? Hell no. Sounds more like they think uncle is a free nanny in daycare. They abuse his willingness to help. The uncle has all the right in the world to take his girlfriend on a trip. He could have been a lot more thoughtful and could have managed to go to the in-laws for help. Sounds like the grandparents don't like to pull that weight in raising the grandkids. Not the a-hole. Stay strong in your decision. The fact that they are planning a second child with you as their childcare answer is scary. You need to make it clear that you don't run a daycare facility. Otherwise, you will have a demon child, plus a squawking baby needing diaper changes, feedings, etc. at your home during your work hours. Not the a-hole. Your family are guilting you because none of them can be asked to take care of the son either. Sorry this is happening to you, OP, but stand your ground. You're 100% right. Sounds like your brother and sister-in-law have become entitled to your help and forgotten what it's like to be solely responsible for your kid, so they've begun relying on your help. But as you so rightfully pointed out, this is totally a them problem. Your parents are probably joining in because they know if you stop looking after Kyle altogether, they'll be relied on a lot more. Also, about your outburst, yeah, maybe not the best way to react, but they pushed you to breaking point and you snapped. Also, they were being rude and unreasonable in their expectations, so I don't expect you to respond 100% calmly and rationally either. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not splitting my daughter's college fund? When my 42 female daughter's 17 female was 7, we lost her father to an avoidable accident. Due to that and a subsequent settlement, my daughter was able to have a trust fund of sorts that provided for college, grad school if she wanted, and even some left over for whatever life might bring. It is money that, if managed wisely, would enable her to have a head start in life. She knows about this, and is never taken for granted given where the money came from. After all, we'd both rather have her father around than the money. That said, life moves on, and I remarried 6 years after my husband's passing to a lovely man who has 2 children of his own, 17 female and 13 male. All of the children live with us primarily, with his children seeing their mother on vacations as she lives across the country. This year, both our girls are graduating and should be headed to college. My daughter was admitted to her dream school last year and is ecstatic about it. Her father was an alumnus, and she has this old sweatshirt of his that she kept to remind her of him. She cried so much when she got in, and both her stepfather and I were proud of her because she worked hard to get in. My stepdaughter will also be attending a wonderful school that is one of the top-ranked schools for her interests. The problem now arises with the money to pay for stepdaughter's school, because her parents cannot afford to pay the tuition in its entirety. Stepdaughter will have to take some loans. All told, she will graduate with about $40,000 in loans, which I think is still quite modest for the school she's attending, and her earning prospects post-graduation. But my daughter will graduate debt-free, and for my husband, this is suddenly a problem. He wants us to split my daughter's fund between all 3 kids, because then they could all probably have college fully paid for. My daughter won't have much left over, and will definitely need to borrow for grad school, which she has expressed interest in attending. But according to my husband, that's okay because everyone will start off on an equal footing post-college. I think this is unfair to my daughter because 1, her father had to die for this money, and 2, this is like her inheritance from him. My husband thinks that they are all siblings and she should be happy to share the money with them if it means giving her siblings a head start in life. I absolutely do not want to put her in the position of being guilted into saying yes if she doesn't want to. I've expressed all of this to my husband and he thinks that I'm being selfish, that I'm teaching my daughter to be selfish, and I obviously don't consider my stepkids the same as my daughter. Am I the a-hole for wanting to protect my daughter's trust for her as it was intended? Edited to add, since I've seen this a few times already, both kids do have college funds but somewhat smaller because my husband and his ex got their finances in order later in life. So there is some money, but with the caliber of the school that stepdaughter will be attending, she will still need some loans to cover costs. I haven't brought up going to a cheaper school because that will be a fresh set of problems given where my daughter will be matriculating. Now for the top comments. Info. This is a difficult situation to judge as written. My question for you is this. Who has paid for your daughter's needs since you and your husband married? Has he contributed at all to her food, clothing, shelter, school-related expenses, extracurriculars, family trips, etc.? Or were those expenses borne solely by you and or the fund? Because if your current husband has contributed to his stepdaughter's expenses, I can see how he might think, I've spent thousands supporting this young woman over the years, money that could have come from her fund. Both my husband and I paid for things, because we both have careers and didn't nickel and dime in one another about who was buying what for whose kid. Not the a-hole. That settlement was for your deceased husband's children, not your future children, and certainly not someone else's. I agree, not the a-hole. The money is for your deceased husband's children, not your current husband's children. Keep your stance. This is your daughter's money from her father. The other children have money from their father. To me, your current husband is the a-hole for even suggesting it. Right? This needs to be nipped in the bud and not even open for discussion. OP. This is her inheritance from her father. It is from his death. Circumstances stole her father from her. I am not going to take away what he was able to give her. This is not open for discussion. Also, $40,000 is not that bad, and if she doesn't want that, she can go elsewhere. That's not necessarily for you to bring up, but her father should. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my son my car to pay off his debt? Let's start from the very beginning. Over 20 years ago, I divorced my then wife. I had 2 kids with her, my oldest son and my youngest daughter. I always had a very good relationship with my son. He was my one and only. At age 17, my son moved in with me and my girlfriend. I always try to get my daughter to move in too, but she refused. I try to make it nice for us, but soon I realized that having another mouth to feed was emptying my bank account faster than I could see. I soon jumped from workplace to workplace and asked all my friends for money, which I barely was able to pay back. So, I started asking my son for money. He paid for groceries here and there over the years. Then he helped me with some bills and even got a credit card on his name for us to use, since I couldn't get one due to my debt. It went well for a few years, but still my money was always on the low. I forgot to pay my car insurance for a few months and they ended my contract. So I created a new one with my son's name on it. I asked him, of course, as always, so he always knew what he was getting himself into. Soon, he moved out and moved in with his girlfriend. She was a very nice girl, or so I thought. He soon asked me to pay him back some money since now he had some credit card debt. He did the math and it summed up to around $10,000. I really didn't have that kind of money and he knew that, and he soon went no contact. He visited me and we talked normally for some time. Then he started asking me for my car. He asked me if I could give him my car so he could sell it to pay off his debts. I told him no immediately. I needed a car for my new job since it was in the neighboring city. He told me to take the train and bus and that there were cheap tickets and my job could help me get a permanent ticket. I told him that I couldn't do that. That was at the end of 2021. I told him if I didn't have the money for his debt until January of 2022, he could have a car. After that conversation, he went no contact again. January came and I didn't have the money. I really couldn't bring it up and I told him that. He asked me about my promise and a car, but I know I didn't promise him anything. I told him I still need a car. We had a long fight over the phone in which his girlfriend said that a loving father wouldn't do something like that to his son, with which she meant all the money I took from him. And with that statement, she was dead to me. I got diagnosed with depression due to the situation. I do regret my mistakes, but I think he made me suffer enough. I miss my son, but until he apologizes for treating me like this, I don't want to have anything to do with him either. I feel so torn. My daughter isn't there for me either. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole and the worst kind of deadbeat. He's worse than a deadbeat. He's racking up debt in his son's name and refusing to pay him back. There's a 0% chance the son's credit card debt isn't related to Opie's spending. I like how it's also somehow the new girlfriend's fault, who Opie thought was a nice girl, that the son doesn't want to be financially used anymore. I was waiting for why she wasn't nice. Oh, she dared stand up for her son. Jeez, you're the a-hole, Opie. I'm the daughter and my father, Opie, sent me this post so I can defend him in the comments. I won't be doing that though, lol. Please take this deadbeat to court and use this post as evidence he agreed to pay your brother back. Let me tell you something. My brother took my father to court together with a computer firm. My father bought an $800 screen under my brother's name but couldn't pay for it, so the company sued my brother. He then went to a lawyer to show him other things he's done under my brother's and even my name, things I didn't even know about. He could clear his name and is now going to court with a company against my father. Your father is a trash. I'm sorry you and your siblings have a selfish mooch of a father. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling the police when the people I was babysitting for would not answer their phone? Hi, I'm 14 and I babysit for a few people in my neighborhood. On Friday, I was babysitting for a couple that moved into the city from the south. They're only a block from my house, so my parents were okay with me staying there until 10 as they said they would be home by 9. They did not get home at 9. At 9:45, I started texting them to see if they were on the way. Then I called my parents. My mom came over because I was getting worried. It had snowed pretty bad on Friday and they weren't answering. At 11:30, we phoned the police as I was freaking out. The police got their names and address and I guess found their license plates like that. They found them in about 25 minutes. They were at their friend's house. They called me and they were mad that I called the police. I promise, I wouldn't have called the police if they had answered my texts or calls, and my mom was concerned as well. I didn't call to get them in trouble. I was worried. But they told my mom that I'm not mature enough to be babysitting if that's how I'm going to behave. I feel kind of bad that the police made them come home from their friend's house. But I think that they should have answered the phone. What if there was something wrong with their kids? Not the a-hole. The parents were taking advantage of you. You did everything you should have, including trying to reach them, contacting your mother, and then contacting the police. You've done nothing wrong. The Parents are angry at being caught out on bad behavior. Yes, this was the epitome of maturity. Opie had valid reasons to be worried. They were the jerks here, not you, Opie, and not your mom. If they were responsible parents, they would have answered your calls. Or, gasp, gotten home on time as promised? Don't let them get you. Not the a-hole. 1. You are a literal child. 2. They gave you an undertaking and failed to keep it or inform you. 3. You attempted to contact them first. 4. You sought advice from an adult, your mom. 5. They disrespected not only you, but your parents who were comfortable allowing you out until 10, not early midnight. 6. You had no option to just go home when they didn't show, because you were still responsible for their children. They're a-holes, and you should warn other babysitters off them. Not the a-hole Opie. But for clarity, I think they only phoned police at 11:30. It then took 25 minutes for police to locate them. At the very least, it would be another half hours for them to be home because police are gonna do a quick interview there and then, before releasing them home. It's gonna be well after midnight. Never babysit for them again, Opie. Not the a-hole. 3 things. 1. You said they moved to your city from the south. I assume you mean a state that doesn't get a lot of snow? I live in Canada, and when it snows here, the people who have lived here their entire lives forget how to drive. They could have been in an accident. 2. They were jerks for not giving you the phone number of the place they were going to be. Cell phones run out of power and get left in purses. They should have given you contact information. 3. You got advice from your mom. You didn't do this without thinking it through, or out of spite. You had legitimate concerns, and they were enough for your mom to agree that calling the police was a good idea. You did the exact right thing. They were upset because a 14-year-old girl was more responsible than they were.